Stephen Miller just said something most governments never say out loud. He claimed the United States is running Venezuela and that nobody would stop America if it decided to take Greenland. If that's true, it would mean international law only matters when powerful states allow it to. In this video, there's no cheering section. You will use what I call the control versus ownership framework to answer three questions. What are Miller and Trump actually claiming about Venezuela and Greenland? What can US foreign policy really do to weaker states? And where are the hard limits from the UN Charter to the NATO to the political reality? At the end, I'll give you a 5-question control checklist you can reuse anytime a leader claims they run another country. First, what did Stephen Miller actually say? In a recent interview, he argued that after a US military operation inside Venezuela, which Washington describes as decisive, combined with a full oil embargo, America now sets the terms and conditions of Venezuela economy. His words: they require our consent to have an economy. Therefore, the United States is running Venezuela by definition. He also said Greenland should obviously be the part of United States, not through a treaty or referendum, but through raw strategy necessity. He suggested nobody would fight America over it because Washington anchors NATO and needs Greenland to secure the Arctic. Before you decide whether this sounds insane or obvious, let's slow it down and translate what this actually means in practice. Start with the control side of the framework. What US foreign policy can actually do? Tool 1: Military operations. A superpower can strike targets deep inside another state without declaring war. Tool 2: Sanction and embargoes. Washington can cut a country off from dollars, banks, and major oil markets, turning normal trade into a legal minefield. Tool 3: Diplomatic recognition. The US can decide which leader it treats as the real government, controlling access to frozen assets, loans, and institutions. Each tool on its own is limited. Together, they create a massive pressure without ownership. So far, this sounds like unlimited power, exactly how Miller describes it. But this is where the system actually starts pushing back. Under the UN Charter, states are barred from using forces against another state's territorial integrity or political independence. That rule is the legal foundation of the post World War II order the United States itself helped design. That's why US officials insist they are not occupying Venezuela, and why international lawyers warn that openly seizing Greenland would be a textbook illegal annexation. In short, the US can control a lot, but it cannot legally own another country's territory just because it's stronger. Then, there's NATO and political reality. Greenland is a part of the Kingdom of Denmark, a NATO ally. Denmark's Prime Minister has warned that a US attack on Greenland would mean the end of NATO, one member attacking another. Even if the US could win militarily, the political cost would be enormous. Broken alliance, retaliation, and historic loss of legitimacy. Putting this together, and you get the control versus ownership framework. The US can control a country's options by strangling access to dollars and trades, threatening companies to do business there, and deciding which government it recognizes. But ownership, planting a flag and absorbing territory, collides with the international law, alliance, and backslashes. So, when Miller says, "We are running Venezuela," the accurate translation is, "We have enough leverage to force Venezuela to play by our rules for now." That's power, it's not ownership. This is the part most coverages skips because it turns slogans into testable claims. Here is the 5 question control checklist. Who controls the territory and the police? Who controls the money and trade routes? Who controls who the real government is? What do the UN Charter and alliance like NATO say? How long can this pressure last before it backfires in court, election, or global opinion? Answer those 5 and you will know whether a superpower really runs another country or is just talking though on the TV. This is Study World Politics, where we break down how power actually works beyond slogans and headlines. If you want US foreign policy explained with frameworks you can reuse, subscribe. Comment below. Do you think the US is truly running Venezuela or is it that just propaganda language? Next, we will apply the same control versus ownership framework to China and Taiwan. So, you can see how the checklist works in a complete different crisis.